Audi's much improved 4th generation A6 Avant is a large, luxurious estate that combines practicality with panache. In this form, it's even higher tech, better finished and cleverer than before, and aims to offer buyers a little more charisma and driving reward than the previous version could have. You can see why it's a class leader.
Audi may not be too far ahead of its arch-rival BMW in terms of overall sales, but in one segment at least, the Ingolstadt maker comprehensively beats its closest rival, that of large, luxurious executive class estates. Their A6 Avant outsells the rival BMW 5 Series Touring nearly 2-1 and is even further ahead of estate versions of other key segment competitors like Mercedes E-Class and the Jaguar XF. What then might the marque achieve with a car that's smarter, lighter, faster and greener, yet more cost-effective to run? This one, the improved 4th generation A6 Avant. This isn't the biggest model in its segment, but for many buyers, it offers the most complete all-round proposition in terms of model choice, practicality and technology, which explains why the other German brands take this contender so seriously. Most cars of this kind end up on the executive driveways of company buyers, whose choices in turn are often primarily dictated by their business accountants. And what company number cruncher is going to tell you to look away from a model that's unbettered in its segment in terms of overall running costs? But cars of this kind aren't only bought on paper. In the past, Audi has sometimes found it difficult to replicate the luxury that attracts so many people to a Mercedes, or the driving dynamics that cause others to favour a BMW, or the charisma that's so appealing in a Jaguar. This sharper-looking, more rewarding A6 Avant aims to encourage those people to think again, at the same time as providing us with what is arguably the most complete large load carrier Audi has ever made. Let's check it out. The days are long gone when estate cars, particularly those of this calibre, felt heavy and cumbersome in comparison to the saloons on which they were based. This A6 Avant will doubtless be bought by many who don't necessarily need an estate, just because they like the feel of it. And more than ever with this improved 4th generation A6, the feel of this car is what you remember, even after a very brief drive. In this model, Audi has created a machine in which the driving experience begins way before you even go anywhere. Once you've thunked shut the door, you fire the engine, and you're treated to the theatrical arrival of the sat-nav screen as it powers up from a slot in the middle of the fascia. Brush your brogues against the throttle pedal, and there's a subdued rumble from somewhere up ahead that vanishes almost completely as you power underway. That power is being directed through the front wheels, which might sound an obvious thing to say until you stop and reflect on the fact that the A6 Avant is the only significant player in the executive estate segment that isn't rear-driven. Now, enthusiasts will tell you of the disadvantage that gives the car in comparison to driver-orientated rivals like BMW's 5 Series Touring and Jaguar's XF Sport Brake. But then cars of this sort aren't aimed at enthusiasts, but motorway-bound business folk. In any case, this Ingolstadt brand counters with two key dynamic attributes its competitors can't match. First, lighter weight, which always helps sharper handling. The base version of this car weighs in at 110 kilograms less than an obvious rival like BMW's 520d Touring, for example. On top of that, this Audi's other key advantage is the option further up the range of Quattro four-wheel drive. With Quattro fitted, you can simply turn into a corner, enjoy the driver-orientated 60-40 rearward bias and keep your foot down as various computers distribute torque around the chassis as needed. On the more powerful diesel variants, there's also the option of adding a sports differential. This sits on the rear axle, distributing power optimally between the back wheels during tight cornering, literally pushing the car through the bend and really delivering you a car capable of turning into corners like a shark turning towards a meal. Compared to a rear-wheel drive rival, the feel is certainly very different. Is it ultimately more satisfying? You might well think so. Does it better suit our rainy climate? Absolutely. Having said all that, the vast majority of A6s sold here won't be of the Quattro variety. Audi expecting that 3/4 of buyers will go for the front-driven 2-litre TDI Ultra diesel derivative that I'm trying here. Can its leaner approach really compensate for a drive system many might feel was better suited to the needs of a smaller family hatch? Well, Audi has thrown everything at this design to try and ensure that it will. So the structural dietary program has been aided by this model's long wheelbase. Plus, fitted as standard is an improved torque vectoring system which works through the turns to counter both understeer and wheel spin by lightly micro-braking whichever front wheel is threatening to lose grip. It's not enough to create as rewarding a driving experience as you get in a 5 Series, but the A6 gets closer to that class-leading target than you might expect. Closer indeed than it ought to on paper. But of course, what's really important with this car is not B-road blasting, but highway cruising, which is where you'd really appreciate the optional adaptive air suspension system. A nice thing to have, given that even if you don't opt for the stiffer sports or S-line suspension setups, the ride of this car does deliver a degree of firmness you may not always want. At slower speeds on poorer surfaces, the air-sprung system isn't quite as magic carpet-like as that you'll find on a rival Mercedes, but pick up the pace and the package really comes into its own, cushioning you with pillowy softness and automatically lowering the car at high speeds or when you're pushing on. The system works through the self-explanatory 5 modes of the Drive Select electronic chassis tuning system that all A6s get, regardless of the suspension preference chosen. The key settings are comfort, dynamic, and efficiency, plus there's individual if you want to tailor this setup yourself, and auto if you can't be bothered to choose. In conventionally sprung A6s, these settings can't influence the ride quality, but they do appropriately alter throttle and gear change responses to suit relaxed, performance-orientated, or efficiency-prioritized styles of driving. Steering feedback too, though that's still a bit vague, even if you do pay extra for the dynamic steering option. Time to talk engines, which in the mainstream lineup are exclusively diesel-powered these days. Though Audi does offer a potent 4-litre TFSI turbo petrol unit, its use is restricted to the top sporting models, the 450 PS S6 and the 560 PS RS6. Otherwise, the choice lies between various versions of the familiar 3-litre V6 TDI power plant with or without Quattro 4-wheel drive, or the version that, as mentioned, I'm trying here, the front-driven 190 PS 2-litre TDI, a car capable of a very reasonable turn of performance. 62 miles an hour from rest, achievable in 8.4 seconds en route to 144 miles an hour. This is the only A6 variant available with a manual gearbox, but most buyers will continue to prefer an automatic. These days, on a 4-cylinder A6, that means Audi's slick 7-speed dual-clutch S-tronic unit, rather than the thrashy belt-driven CVT box this derivative used to have. With the S-tronic, you get super smooth shifts that you can choose to control yourself via steering wheel paddles, and greater efficiency that's aided by a clever freewheeling function that helps to save fuel when you're off the throttle. You get the S-tronic automatic as a non-negotiable standard feature across the rest of the A6 range, except on variants like the fearsome petrol RS6 and the top diesel, the 320 PS 3-litre bi-TDI variant. The engines powering these models generate so much torque that a tougher old-tech 8-speed Tiptronic auto transmission has to be fitted. In the case of the bi-TDI, that pulling power registers at a lusty 650 Newton meters, enabling the 62-mile-an-hour sprint to be dispatched in just 5 seconds dead. Like all the top A6 variants, a bi-TDI model will come with standard four-wheel drive, a quattro setup also provided to buyers of the single-turbo 3-litre TDI V6 engine, which comes in either 218 or 272 PS guises. Go for the 272 PS option and the rest to 62 mile/h sprint time with quattro traction improves from 7.3 to 6.8 seconds. At 218 PS level, you do though get a more efficient two-wheel drive model option should you want it. The rest of the A6 experience is luxury personified, with almost everything programmable to your mood. Highlights? Well, it's hard to pick one thing, but if I had to choose, I'd go for the achingly clever optional matrix LED headlamps. Here, the party trick is the way they can stay on high beam all the time whilst using a camera mounted at the top of the windscreen to react to other traffic by dimming or turning off individual LED clusters. That means other motorists won't be dazzled, but both sides of the road around you and the oncoming way ahead will still be completely full beam lit. The system can even detect animals and also pedestrians who get a pulsing LED flash alerting your approach. Once you've driven regularly at night with this system, take it from me, you won't want to be without it. People don't primarily buy large, luxurious estates for their ultimate carriage capacity. If that were the case, after all, they'd instead be buying an equally plush and even more practical large MPV. But luggage space is clearly a key consideration, an area where in previous generations the A6 Avant lagged a little behind its BMW and Mercedes rivals. You can see from the rakish rear screen of this Mark IV version that Audi never sought dramatic changes in this respect when it came to this more recent design, but a significant increase in wheelbase was enough at its launch in 2011 to put the car back on terms in the space race, at least when it came to comparisons with rivals from BMW and Jaguar. We'll get to that in a minute, but before we do, it's worth covering off some of the aesthetic updates that have improved this car in the revised guise we're going to look at here. These mainly centre around a trademark single-frame front grille that now looks wider, with 6 crisper corners and 8 chromed struts for extra emphasis. There are revised air inlets in the redesigned bumper. And you get more sophisticated headlights too, bi-xenon lamps for the base models and LEDs for plusher variants that can be optioned up to include Audi's segment-leading matrix LED technology, recognisable by its brilliant crystal shine. Here, your lights never need to dip themselves and work with the navigation system to anticipate the road ahead. As before, the proportions are balanced and athletically taut. Sharp lines framing chiselled surfaces below a low roofline that quickly begins sloping back downward. Probably the most notable stylistic flourish is what the designers call a tornado line, a sleek, sporty crease down the side of the car that casts a shadow narrowing from the front towards the back end to give a stretched look. Now that overly firm suspension isn't a conditional part of upgrading to this sportier S-Line trim package I have here, I'd recommend it, as the mild body kit and larger 18-inch wheels give this A6 that crucial extra element of driveway presence. At the sculpted rear of the car, the LED lights are now slimmer and from the S-Line trim level feature sweeping dynamic turn signals. As before, a smart roof-mounted spoiler sits beyond the standard aluminium roof rails, while down below the classy added chrome strip, there's a smart diffuser insert to house restyled tailpipes, whose trapezoidal shape underscores the width of the car. Onto the practicality I mentioned. Now, you can get 565 litres in here. No, that's not as cavernous a capacity as can be offered by a Mercedes E-Class estate, but it's a fraction more than can be swallowed by rival BMW 5 Series Touring and Jaguar XF Sport Brake models. Anyway, as any family owner will tell you, the way that you can use any given space is often more important than its ultimate size. And with this A6, thanks to its now standard electric tailgate, that ease of use can start before you've even opened a door. Now let's say that you're approaching this car laden down with shopping bags that'll collapse all over the tarmac when you put them down to fumble for your key. Here, there's an optional feature that will enable you to do little more than just wave your foot below the bumper. Recognising the key in your pocket, sensors will then automatically raise the tailgate. And once the doors open, the cleverness continues. There's a two-stage boot floor, under which you can place valuables, which is just as well as above it. Some of your items will still be visible to outsiders, even with the luggage cover in place. Owners can make best use of all this space by specifying the optional convenience pack. Now this includes a reversible mat, side area tie-down straps, and a load area fixing kit, which includes a fixing set for the rail system with a telescopic pole and a fastening strap for dividing up the luggage area. There's also a ski hatch for longer items, but if you need more space, then flattening the rear bench frees up 1,680 litres. If you need that rear bench for people rather than packages, then you should find what's provided to be quite sufficient. Now, when this fourth generation design was originally introduced in 2011, the Ingolstadt designers lengthened its wheelbase by 70mm to improve backseat accommodation and create a cabin that remains very glassy and appealing in this improved model, even if you don't choose its optional panoramic glass roof. There's ample leg and headroom for a couple of 6-foot adults to stretch out in comfort, and with the broad centre armrest tucked away, even enough room for a third to sit between without having to breathe in first, though that person will have to straddle a fairly hefty transmission tunnel. Up front, there's the usual luxurious blend of craftsmanship fused with technology, in a cabin that, thanks to some judicious upgrades, now feels plusher than a 5 Series BMW's, trendier than that of a Mercedes E-Class, and better built than that of a Jaguar XF's. If you own the original version of this car, you might notice the redesigned gear lever and the extra chrome detailing on elements like these air vent thumb wheels. It's also nice that you can specify a lighter headlining for S-Line models, and most will also want the optional lighting package that brings the interior to life after dark. As before, the wraparound dash is fashioned in a wide arc that spans the cabin, encircling the slim, low instrument panel. You view it through a leather-trimmed multifunction steering wheel that reveals large black-faced dials featuring clear classic graphics and red needles. Between these, as an option, you can specify this lovely 7-inch TFT colour display that brings not only driving data, but also the standard navigation system more directly into your line of vision. With this feature fitted, I'm not sure I'd need to go further and specify another new feature available on this improved model, a head-up display that projects key driving information directly into your line of sight at the bottom of the windscreen. Almost everything else you'll need to know is to be found on the latest version of the excellent MMI control interface that marshals the ancillary controls on an electrically retracting colour display screen that glides out from the dash, helping the A6 do a better job than most rivals of keeping the dreaded button clutter to a minimum. It's 6 inches in size on base SE models that now include navigation as standard, But ideally, you'd want to upgrade to the improved MMI Navigation Plus system that I have here with its larger 8-inch display. Now this now uses a more powerful Tegra 30 graphics processor and includes MMI Touch, which enables the driver to scroll and zoom in lists and maps via a touchpad. A pity you have to do it with your left hand. There's also Audi Connect functionality that brings tailored internet-based services and new media streaming apps to the car via the latest LTE high-speed data transmission standard for ultra-fast 4G click-through and download functionality. Other updates applied to this improved model include the acoustically damped front and side windows that account for the impressive standards of refinement, and a more effective deluxe 4-zone air conditioning system. Otherwise, things are much as before, which is no bad thing. The leather-trimmed seats remain superbly supportive, at minimum 10-way adjustable, with the optional capability for heating, ventilation and even massage. And around these, if budget permits, you can specify a wide range of finishing cabin trims. I'm not sure about the Beaufort walnut panelling, but contrasting seat stitching would be nice, as would classy inlays in piano black or brushed aluminium. The premium for Avant ownership in the A6 range is a little higher than some brands will ask for estate derivatives, around £2,000. But you do get an awful lot of extra versatility for that, and choice. In this lineup, there's everything from the SUV-like all-road model with its raised suspension and semi-off-road stance to the fire-breathing 4-litre twin-turbo petrol S6 and RS6 models. Here, though, we're concentrating on the exclusively diesel-powered mainstream variants, cars which reside mainly in the £35,000 to £50,000 bracket. Most potential A6 Avant buyers will be confining their attentions to the bottom of the lineup on the highly efficient 2-litre TDI Ultra variant that we've been driving here, where there's the choice of either 6-speed manual or 7-speed S-tronic dual-clutch automatic transmission. If you, or perhaps your company fleet manager, can stretch your budget up to the £40,000 price point, then the choice opens to include the 4 different 3-litre V6 TDI variants that most A6 diesel buyers aspire to. Now, most will want the 218 PS version, but you can go further. Around £1,800 more gets you the same car with Quattro 4-wheel drive, and another £1,500 on top of that allows you to use all of that traction to the full with an uprated 272 PS power output. If that's not enough, then you'll need to look to the top twin-turbo 3-litre bi-TDI variant that offers 320 PS and so much torque that the fearsome RS6 model's hefty 8-speed Tiptronic auto gearbox has been installed to handle it. The humbler 3-litre V6 TDI A6 Avant models I mentioned come exclusively with the 7-speed S-tronic auto referenced earlier. That's given you a quick overview, but there are just a few more A6 Avant facts that you'll need to know. First, on trim. Many will want to find a little extra to get their chosen derivative with one of the premium trim levels. Around £2,500 more gets you a sportier S-Line model, while a further £2,175 on top of that brings you the same car with an even more distinctive Black Edition spec. If you're considering one of the 3-litre V6 TDI Quattro variants, then you might want to look at finding the premium of £5,000 or so that Audi asks to get your car in the ruggedly styled all-road guise I just mentioned, which gives you a more SUV-style look and a higher ride height, which enables a modicum of off-road ability. On to the value proposition all of this delivers, and 3 key rivals will be on most buyers' radars when it comes to evaluating that. BMW's 5 Series Touring, Mercedes E-Class Estate and Jaguar's XF Sport Brake. Of this trio, only the Audi offers the option of 4-wheel drive. Those not swayed by that will be looking at the issue of efficiency, and no doubt noticing that only the BMW can get close to this Audi's fuel and CO2 returns. The Merc and the Jag are well off, despite in most cases costing more to buy. 5 Series pricing is much more closely aligned to that of the A6, so the choice between the two cars will very much come down to personal preference. If, having considered all of that, you decide that it is an A6 Avant that you really want, then you're going to want to know just how generous Audi has been when it comes to standard spec. Well, you shouldn't be disappointed. Even entry-level SE models get alloy wheels of at least 17 inches in size, bi-xenon headlamps, LED tail lights, auto headlamps and wipers, cruise control, keyless go push-button starting, an auto-dimming rearview mirror, an anti-theft alarm, acoustic glazing, Audi parking system plus parking sensors, and heated electrically adjustable mirrors, plus aluminium roof rails and a power-operated tailgate. On the move, all A6s get the Audi Drive Select system that enables you to switch the throttle, steering and gear shifting to suit the road you're on and the mood you're in. And inside, well, even at base SE level, you can expect to find multi-adjustable seats trimmed in lovely Milano leather upholstery, deluxe 4-zone air conditioning, a leather-trimmed multi-function steering wheel with gear shift paddles for automatic models, aluminium dash inlays, hill hold assist to stop you from drifting backwards on uphill junctions, and a trip computer you'll find in the instrument cluster's central driver's information system screen. Best of all, perhaps, are the functions controllable via the electrically retractable 6.5-inch infotainment screen. Now, from here, you can use either switchgear or voice control to deal with a 10-speaker, 180-watt sound system with 6-channel amplifier, DAB radio, and an SD card-based MMI navigation setup. There's also Bluetooth phone connectivity, an aux-in socket, and the Audi Music interface, which provides universal connection for use with stereo audio sources, plus USB and MP3 devices. If, like many buyers, you're tempted to upgrade to the S-Line trim we have here, you get larger 18-inch wheels, softer black Valcona leather trim, front sports seats, a mild body kit with sportier skirts, bumpers and a revised front spoiler, plus clever all-LED headlamps with high beam assist, designed so that they'll dip themselves in the face of oncoming traffic at night. Perhaps the key S-Line trim package inclusion, though, can be found in the option it gives you of sports suspension, which lowers the car by 20mm with more firmly tuned springs and dampers. If you're really not worried about spiralling chiropractor bills, you can further choose S-Line sports suspension, which lowers the car by a further 10mm. So, I've given you a basic guide to the A6 proposition in standard SE and sportier S-Line guises, but of course you can go a lot further than that. The ultimate A6 trim level is Black Edition spec with its unique black styling package, 20-inch wheels, piano black interior inlays, privacy glass and Bose surround sound system. Most buyers, though, will want to make some careful choices from the lengthy options list that includes some of Audi's very latest technology, a good example of which lies with the brand's achingly sophisticated matrix LED headlamps that, with their distinctive crystal-like shine, are available from S-Line trim level upwards. Now, these don't need to fully dip themselves at night because individual LEDs in the light unit adapt themselves to the needs of other road users while moving with the corners and using information from the navigation system to adjust to the kind of route you're on. Brilliant. Beyond that, I'd also want to think about opting for the luxurious magic carpet-like progress possible courtesy of adaptive air suspension. Alternatively, if you like a sportier drive and you're looking at one of the 3-litre TDI models, then the optional dynamic steering system is certainly worth trying to sharpen up precision at the helm. Now, those likely to appreciate that should also probably ask their dealer about the optional sports differential that transfers torque between the rear wheels on Quattro variants through tight corners to fire you from bend to bend. It's rightly standard on S6 and RS6 variants. Other features you might want to consider include extended leather trim, a powered sunroof, powered door closure, a head-up display and an entertainment package that gives you a front TV tuner plus TV screens in the back for rear seat folk. There are a couple of parking system options too. The parking pack option allows the car to identify spaces, then automatically steer you into them. And the Parking Pack Advanced setup does all of this whilst also adding additional cameras that display in a top view system you can follow on the MMI screen. On to seats, and there's a huge choice of them with optional front heating and ventilation too. There's even an optional massaging function. I've got sports seats here, but you could also go for even more supportive super sports chairs or perhaps the pillowy soft 18-way adjustable comfort seats. There's also a night vision setup that now recognises animals and a wonderful 14-speaker 600-watt Bose surround sound system. If my company was paying, I might even want to upgrade to the 15-speaker 15-channel 1200-watt Bang & Olufsen advanced sound system. And all of that is before you get to the particularly clever electronic connectivity options that really do set this A6 range apart. Upgrade the standard sat-nav setup to MMI Navigation Plus status and you get yourself a piece of technology Audi's very proud of. A second generation modular infotainment system based around a cutting-edge Tegra 30 processor. Here, extra highlights include a DVD drive, voice or touchpad controlled command functionality and a 64GB flash memory drive. You get a larger 8-inch retractable infotainment screen to operate all of this, but for navigation at least, you won't necessarily need to keep looking at it, as the system also includes a second colour map display in the middle of the instrument cluster, so there's less need to take your eyes off the road. Another reason MMI Navigation Plus is worth having as an extra is that it gives you access to all the additional cleverness of the Audi Connect package, a data transmission module that establishes a connection to the internet and creates in your car a Wi-Fi hotspot. Now this brings into play features such as navigation with images from Google Earth, a Google Points of Interest search function with voice control and a web radio setup so that you can tune into stations around the world. You can access special in-car versions of your Facebook and Twitter pages, and it's possible to read, write and send text messages and emails. Online media streaming gives access to millions of music tracks. Plus, there's also a clever Audi online traffic information system that uses live traffic information to reroute you around jams. Plus, the setup can also deliver parking information, displaying details on parking lots and parking garages, almost anywhere that you're likely to go. Truly, this is motoring in the 21st century. If you're specifying your A6 and looking at the desirable MMI Navigation Plus and Audi Connect setups, then it's worth knowing that you can get them together included in an optional technology pack, also bundled up with the more sophisticated 7-inch TFT colour display in the instrument binnacle that I just mentioned, and what's called the Audi Phone Box, which enables you to charge your smartphone and boost its signal via the vehicle antennae. Or you could go even further and get the Technology Pack Advanced package. As well as everything I've just mentioned, plus heated power folding mirrors, this also gives you the pick of Audi's most desirable safety features. Adaptive cruise control with stop and go and pre-sense front will automatically and almost eerily regulate your speed using predictive sat-nav data to respond to traffic conditions and remotely speed you up or slow you down at anywhere between 0 and 150 miles an hour. Then there's side assist with pre-sense rear. a system that works above 37 miles an hour and stops you from dangerously pulling out to overtake in front of another vehicle. And Audi Lane Assist to stop dozy drivers from drifting out of their lanes on the highway. Elsewhere on the options list, other neat extra cost safety touches you could consider include a less sophisticated version of the pre-sense technology, which in basic form will automatically tension the front seat belts and close both the windows and, if fitted, the power sunroof if the ESP system indicates that the car is about to skid. You can also specify a traffic sign detection setup that pictures speed signs as you pass and displays them on the dash. Of course, not all the safety features you'll need will cost you extra, nor should they for this kind of money. Standard features include the usual Isofix child seat fastenings, anti-whiplash head restraints and a tyre pressure loss indicator, plus twin front, side and curtain airbags, with rear side bags an extra cost option. Plus, of course, you get a complete roster of electronic acronyms, including the usual electronic assistance for braking, traction and stability control. There's also a rest recommendation feature that monitors your driving for drowsiness, alerting you, if necessary, to stop for a restorative coffee. If there's one factor that can be said to have driven A6 sales more than any other, it has to be this one. Cost of ownership, after all, is an area in which this car's lightweight and high-tech investment really begin to pay off, with average fuel economy and CO2 figures better than in any rival range and very little different from those of the A6 Saloon, despite this Avant estate model's 60 kilograms of extra weight. Despite power increases across the board in this improved fourth generation lineup, the EU6 compliant engine range benefits from emissions reductions of up to 22%. So how has Audi done it? Well, a key factor lies in the lightweight construction approach that sees this A6 enjoy an aluminium content of around 20%. The designers have even used fiberglass suspension springs that are 40% lighter than their steel counterparts. As a result of all this attention to detail, an entry-level 2-litre TDI Ultra variant like this one manages to weigh in at a relatively lean 1,690 kilograms, which in perspective sees this Audi tipping the scales at around 110 kilograms less than a rival BMW 520d touring model. In other words, we're talking of a saving that equates to the combined weight of an average adult and an average child. That has to be significant. All of that plays its part in allowing this car to achieve an impressive set of balance sheet returns. Go as many potential buyers will for the entry-level Avant 2-litre TDI Ultra variant that I'm trying here, and you'll be getting a very efficient car indeed. It's capable of as much as 64.2 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle, hence the impressive 1,030 mile potential operating range you'll get from the 73-litre fuel tank. And up to 114 grams per kilometre of CO2 is possible with 17-inch wheels and the efficient S-Tronic auto gearbox fitted, which will relieve owners of the need to pay for road tax in the first year of ownership. Bear in mind that with manual transmission, your fuel and CO2 returns will be a fraction worse. And as you'd expect, the larger wheels you get with plusher trim levels will impact both sets of figures by a few percentage points. Whatever way you look at it though, this is an impressive showing, about 5% better than you'd get from the rival BMW model I just mentioned, and way ahead of Jaguar, whose comparable XF Sport Brake 2.2 diesel 200 PS model would cost you about 20% more to run. Move up to one of the 3-litre TDI models and Audi's slim but significant advantage over its German rivals continues. The front-driven 218 PS variant returns 58.9 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 125 grams per kilometre in its standard form, or 53.3 miles to the gallon and 138 grams per kilometre if you opt for it with Quattro four-wheel drive. Returns duplicated by the pokier 272 PS Quattro model. In rough terms, what it all boils down to is that you can enjoy 4x4 traction but get very similar running costs to those that you would in a two-wheel drive BMW 5 Series Touring or Mercedes E-Class estate rival. At the top of the A6 diesel range, the Avant 3-litre bi-TDI variant manages 45.6 miles to the gallon and 164 grams per kilometre. True, that's a fraction less than you'd get from this variant's only realistic rival, BMW's less powerful 535d Touring, but again you'd have the smug pleasure of that extra four-wheel drive peace of mind during the next snowy snap. All well and good, but where you might expect the A6 Avant range to suffer though from a cost perspective is when it comes to the returns of the big twin-turbo 4-litre petrol TFSI V8 used in the sporting S6 and RS6 models, in which case you might be surprised. Thanks to a clever cylinder deactivation system that disengages 4 of the 8 cylinders under part load to maximise fuel efficiency, the S6 Avant manages 30.1 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 219 grams per kilometre of CO2, while even in the RS6 you'll manage 29.4 miles to the gallon and 223 grams per kilometre. Overall then, an impressive showing across the board that's further aided by an improved engine stop-start system and the efficiency setting you can choose on the Drive Select vehicle dynamic system. With this activated in an S-tronic automatic variant like this one, a coasting function cuts in that disengages the engine at cruising speeds for greater efficiency, then re-engages it immediately and almost seamlessly when you either accelerate or brake. Beyond this, the efficiency initiatives are more familiar and include all the things you'd now expect from a car of this kind. Brake energy recuperation, which recycles energy you'd otherwise lose when braking or cruising. The slippery 0.30 CD drag factor. Climate control in a system that can be used in a highly economic eco mode. A gear shift indicator and an efficiency program that you'll find on the onboard computer that gives you fuel saving tips and even tells you which elements in the car are using most power. What else? Residual value sits somewhere between BMW and Mercedes. That means that after 3 years and or 60,000 miles, Cat Monitor reckons that an A6 Avant 2-litre TDI Ultra SE will still be worth about 37% of what you paid for it, slightly shading the returns you'd get from a comparable BMW or Mercedes. In an A6 3-litre TDI, the figure rises to an equally class-leading 40%. Further running cost assistance is provided by a fixed price servicing plan that can cover you for 3 years or 30,000 miles. And you can also extend the unremarkable 3-year 60,000 mile warranty to either 4 or 5 years at extra cost. Service intervals are decently long too, every 19,000 miles or 2 years. As for insurance, well, the highest rating for this 2-litre TDI Ultra model is Group 33E. That rises to Group 35 for the 3-litre TDI 218 PS variant and to Group 40 for the same car with Quattro 4-wheel drive. If you want the 3-litre TDI 272 PS Quattro model, the plushest version rates at Group 42. And the top diesel, the 3-litre bi-TDI Quattro, rates at Group 44. With lower trim levels, you may save a fraction on these figures. This, even BMW and Mercedes would reluctantly have to admit, is a beautiful piece of engineering. It always has been. The A6 Avant was, after all, the first car in its class to offer things like bonded-in flush glazing, a galvanised body shell, V6 TDI power, 4-wheel drive and advanced twin-clutch automatic gearboxes. And in this improved, smart-suited 4th generation guise, the cleverness continues. An extra dose of visual charisma blended with high technology and premium quality unsurpassed in this sector. When it comes to efficiency figures, the returns are back on track at the top of the class, which in most cases enables this car to offer a small but significant fuel and CO2 advantage over its rivals. Enough, in fact, to allow some buyers to get themselves the benefits of four-wheel drive, a setup rivals still don't offer, without diverting too far from a reasonable set of running costs. This car's drawbacks, such as they are, don't appear to bother many potential buyers. No, it's still not the most spacious large executive estate in its class, but these days it's large enough for that not to matter. Yes, the extras can be expensive, but then that's the case with any premium executive car. And it's true that the handling isn't especially aimed at driving enthusiasts, though you can go a long way towards sharpening it by tweaking the Drive Select dynamic handling system, or even by specifying the clever Sport differential. This then is a very complete product that will doubtless continue in class leadership for many years to come. A thorough case, if ever there was one, of Vollsprung Technik.